Senior Ditch Day, an unofficial tradition that the school couldn't condone, but couldn't quite stamp out either. It was always a headache for teachers, but this year, it would be my secret weapon. 2 weeks before the expected date, I announced a major project. This will be worth 20% of your final grade, I told the class, watching the slackers' eyes glaze over. We'll start the Monday after next. Make sure you're here to choose your groups. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. They knew Senior Ditch Day was that Friday. They thought they were so clever, planning to miss the group formation and then worm their way into established teams. What they didn't know was that I had insider information. My niece, a junior at Westbrook, had overheard their plans. They weren't just ditching Friday, they were planning a long weekend trip to the coast. The Friday came, and as expected, the slackers were conspicuously absent. The rest of the class formed their groups eagerly, relieved to work without the deadweight. I made a show of emphasizing how important it was to finalize groups today. Monday morning arrived, and with it, 7 very surprised seniors. They swaggered in, ready to charm their way into groups, only to find all seats taken. "Sorry, boys," I said. "Not sorry at all. Looks like you'll have to work together." The look of panic on their faces was priceless. For the first time, they realized they had no one to leech off of, no one to manipulate. They were stuck with each other. "But Dr. Sam," Jake protested, "that's not fair. We didn't know." I cut him off. "I announced this project 2 weeks ago, Jake. I even sent out an email reminder on Friday. Didn't you check your school email over the long weekend?" Of course they hadn't. They were too busy partying at the beach, secure in their belief that they could always talk their way out of trouble. As the reality of their situation sank in, I could see the discord already beginning. Ethan and Tyler were glaring at each other, each blaming the other for this predicament. Max was frantically texting, probably trying to get his parents to intervene. But I was ready. I had documented everything meticulously, every announcement, every email, every instance of their past behavior. If their parents wanted a fight, I was prepared to win. The next few weeks were a spectacular disaster. The slackers, for the first time, had to actually do work, and they had no idea how. They bickered constantly, missed deadlines, and produced subpar work at every turn. I watched with a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Part of me hoped this would be the wake-up call they needed, that they'd rise to the challenge and prove me wrong. They didn't. When presentation day came, their project was a mess. Incomplete, incoherent, and clearly thrown together at the last minute. As they stumbled through their presentation, I could see the dawning realization in their eyes. They had finally found a problem they couldn't talk their way out of. The grades came out, and as expected, they were abysmal. That's when the real chaos began. Parents stormed the school demanding explanations, retests, anything to save their precious children's GPAs. But this time, I was immovable. I had all the documentation, all the evidence of their continued negligence throughout the year. Mr. Daniels, true to form, backed me completely. In a memorable meeting with all 7 sets of parents, he laid out the facts. "Your sons have been given every opportunity to succeed," he said calmly. "Dr. Reed has gone above and beyond to help them. At some point, they need to take responsibility for their own education." The fallout was spectacular. Jake lost his scholarship to State University. Ethan's parents, finally seeing him for who he was, cut off his credit cards. Tyler didn't have enough credits to graduate and had to repeat his senior year. As for the others, they scraped by with the lowest passing grades possible. Their college prospects significantly dimmed. Was it harsh? Perhaps. But as I watched the rest of my students flourish, freed from the toxic influence of the slackers, I knew I had done the right thing. The last day of school, as I was packing up my classroom, I heard a knock at the door. It was Aiden, the quietest of the slackers. "Dr. Sam," he said, looking uncomfortable, I just wanted to say thanks, and I'm sorry. You were right about us, about me. I've got a lot to figure out, but I think I needed this wake-up call." I smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. "That's all I ever wanted, Aiden, for you to learn." As he left, I looked at that phrase on my wall, "Sometimes the best teacher is failure." I had set out to teach those boys a lesson, and in the process, I had learned one myself. Sometimes the kindest thing a teacher can do is to let a student fail. Because in failure, there's always the seed of future success, and who knows? Maybe one day, one of those boys would look back on this year not with resentment, but with gratitude for the lesson they so desperately needed to learn.